Hello everyone, just a short vocabulary lesson today because I want to look at the expressions I'm afraid so and I'm afraid not. Now, I'm guessing that most of you watching this video know that there are basically two uses for the adjective afraid, right? If I say I'm not afraid of spiders, but I am afraid of heights, you know that what I'm saying is that I'm not scared of spiders, but I am scared of heights, right? Afraid can be a synonym for scared, or to have fear. But if I say, I'm afraid the Queen passed away last week, or I'm afraid you failed your exam, I'm not saying that I'm scared that the Queen passed away last week, or I'm scared that you passed your exam. No, of course, I'm just using I'm afraid to soften bad news. So I could just say the Queen passed away last week, or you failed your exam. But that's very direct. And this is bad news, and this is quite sensitive information. So it's much more common, much more polite and more sensitive to use I'm afraid. Similarly, if I say, I'm afraid I can't go to your party, or I'm afraid we don't accept credit cards, which is very common in shops, in that case, it's a way of sort of apologizing. Again, it's kind of making it less direct. So it's basically, I'm sorry, I can't go to your party, or I'm sorry, or we are sorry, we don't accept credit cards. So as I said, I'm guessing you know that. Those are the two different uses of I'm afraid, quite different. But what I really wanted to look at in this video is I'm afraid so and I'm afraid not. And the reason I wanted to look at it is because I think these are really useful expressions that I don't think you're using enough. So when I say you, maybe you are, but you're definitely not. Because of course, this is just my experience from speaking to people in English in general, non-native speakers, and from speaking with my students. And it's also really useful for the Cambridge English exams to be able to use these expressions well, because you need to sort of react to what your partner is saying in the exam in an appropriate and polite way, not too direct. So how do we use I'm afraid not, first of all? Well, we use I'm afraid not instead of no when responding to a negative question that somebody has asked. So we could just say no, but again, that's very direct and in some situations could be considered rude. So a simple example with I'm afraid not, you can imagine that somebody says to you, Jenny didn't pass her exam, did she? And you respond simply by saying, I'm afraid not. I'm afraid not. Again, you could just say no, but in English, we're not usually that direct, especially British English. Maybe Americans are a little bit more direct, but we're a little bit excessively polite, the British. Another example, are you coming to my party? I'm afraid not. Instead of just saying no, if somebody asks you, they're sort of inviting you to the party, are you coming to my party? If you just say no, that's a bit rude. It can come across as being quite rude. So just by saying I'm afraid not, it's much more polite, much less direct, and much more appropriate. And what about I'm afraid so? Well, very similarly to I'm afraid not, we use it instead of yes. So it's still responding to a negative comment. And when I say negative, I don't mean with negative grammar, I just mean it's usually with bad news. Usually the comment contains bad news and you're kind of agreeing to that comment. So you're responding in a positive way, although the content is negative. I hope I'm making sense. Listen to the examples and it will all become clear, I hope. Jenny failed her exam, didn't she? I'm afraid so. So it's very similar to the first example, right? With I'm afraid not. The example with I'm afraid not was Jenny didn't pass her exam, did she? I'm afraid not. But in this case, Jenny failed her exam, so that's using affirmative grammar, but it's the content is negative, right? She failed her exam. That's bad news. But you can't say I'm afraid not because it's responding to an affirmative sentence. So you'd say, I'm afraid so. You're saying, yes, Jenny failed her exam. That's basically what you're saying. Again, in a more polite way, a less direct way. Another example, do you have to work again this weekend? I'm afraid so. So again, you could just say yes, but you give more emotion and it's more sensitive if you say, I'm afraid so. Okay, as I said, maybe a lot of you knew that already, but you're not using it enough. You're not using those expressions enough, and you're not using I'm afraid enough, because it's very simple to include in your spoken English, and it's useful because it's how we really speak in English. Again, especially British English, but also I think in American English. But also it just demonstrates a high level of English, a high command of English. Okay, that's it. I'll see you very soon for another video.